All right, what is up, everyone? Brian and I are closing in on 2 years of having a monthly call where we talk about what's the signal in the market. Like we're in the mortgage business, and there's a lot going on every month. It is October 31st. Yes, it is Halloween. In today on Halloween, and Brian and I are grinding this out just because we couldn't. We were both so busy at the NBA, like we wanted to do it live, but we couldn't do it live because.
Exactly right.
By the way, how many meetings did you have at the NBA this year?
26
26.
in
Yeah,
2 days.
I don't want to do a one up on him. I
I'm
could.
sure you had more.
No, I actually don't know the exact number. I call them impact conversations. So I always log that I have a 10-minute conversation with someone where I made them a promise and they made me a promise. 10-minute or more where promises were made, impact conversations. And as a team, guys, we had over 40.
Wow.
I was not in every single one of those, but like it's go time. So Brian, let's just jump right to it. Like I felt the past couple of years cautiously optimistic. I still think there is fear in the market, and I think there is some AI fear. I think there's still some economic issues, but I felt like the people that are strong and profitable, which there are some, they're like, let's go. So there was just this offensive, for me, group, and then there was some cautiously optimistic people. And I don't know what anybody's P&L is or what their balance sheet is, but I did feel like we are in a point of like the haves and the have-nots, and the haves are just pedal to the metal. Let's grow. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, look, I had a similar takeaway, and I think you know this. I spent 3 days at the National Association of Mortgage Brokers Conference, also in Vegas, be, literally immediately before the MBA conference in Vegas. And so I kind of got it from the broker community because actually I shook hands with 1,000 brokers in my booth over those couple of days, and then I spoke to 1,000 of them one Sunday morning on a variety of topics. You'd been proud of me. It was about converting leads. And
I hope the words
by the
mortgage
way,
coach. Wait, whoa. I hope
mortgage
the word
coach.
mortgage coach came out of your mouth at least
Not
once.
only did it come out of my mouth, I made a prominent piece of it on a slide and in the presentation because
Oh man.
I was referencing Jeremy Forcier and his approach. And one of the tools, I was talking about the tools you need to be successful in converting leads over time. And I used Jeremy as an example, and the fact that he uses total cost through Mortgage Coach was absolutely. I have the video to prove it. So
All
yeah.
right. Well, by the way, I'm not gonna say, by the way, thank you for that. But well, when it's my turn to talk again, like the mission has never been more clear. Like
Yeah,
what we
no
need to
doubt.
do to win.
No doubt. I agree with you on that. Anyway, so the short version to respond to your comment, um, I found, I think, a little irrational exuberance about lower rates at the NBA. People were waiting for Powell's decision this week, which, didn't go great, right? In terms
Well, I
of the
mean,
outcome.
didn't everybody know that, like, first of all, he was going to do that, and two, it had already been
No,
priced into the market. Like
no.
it was not new.
Well, I would say this. What people expected for December was already priced in the market, and then he went out of his way twice in his press conference to say, "I'd be very cautious, waiting and assuming we're going to cut again in December." And
Yeah,
then
he did not. He did not do the
he was
industry.
not subtle.
No,
He
he
was
he
not
is
subtle.
not. He is not trying to create a positive housing market.
No,
Let's just say.
right. And so anyway, long and short, I agree with you. I think there were people that have returned to reasonable levels of profitability. I have some clients that have returned to phenomenal levels of
Well, I was
profitability.
just going to say that, like the NBA last quarter, well, not last quarter, last reported quarter was 25 basis points, which
Right.
is the biggest number we've seen in
Quite
this
some time.
market.
Look,
And
I have some clients over 100, right?
really,
Year to
really
date,
over a
right?
hundred.
But you know what the hallmark of those are, Dave, and you could probably guess this very easily. They've done the hard work over the last couple of years. They've made the tough decisions. They flattened their organization. They took out non-essential costs. They focused on the right things, and they managed the heck out of their margins in a very thoughtful way. And as a result, they're running a business, and they took it really seriously from day one. And so what I
Hey,
found
Brian,
was,
Brian, time out. I know you have more to say, but I want to get, feel free to put it within this conversation. But if the market is 25 basis points and you've got client at hundreds, what should be, if you're an IMB, your loan officers or local referral based loan officers, what is the Brian Hale like target? Like, is it 100 or is it like
No,
50?
no. Look, first of all, if you know, if I had a group of clients sitting in a room, I'd be speaking about, well, first of all, I think it's all relative. You know, if you're at 25, I'd like to try to help you get to 35 or 40, right? Because that leap is not easy, right? If you were at 50, I'd like to try to get you to 75. But in general, in the old days, whatever the hell normal was, distributed retail, IMBs were 25 or 35 to 50 basis points bottom line profitability was a pretty good year. It was a pretty good year. And then you had the big boom years that you maybe made 80 or 100 or 120, then it came back. There was nothing that looked like, except for 2003, which was actually bigger than 20 or 21, except for that year, people generally weren't making 200 basis points to the bottom line the way some folks were in 20 and 21. Here's the takeaway. I agree with you. There were some folks that have returned to really good or maybe stupendous or okay profitability. I think there's a group that's still very nervous because they haven't necessarily accomplished it or, frankly, done the hard work. They've done a part of the hard work. The good news is they feel like, hey, look, we survived this disaster. So why would we sell now, or why would we, get out now? So M&A has slowed down, at least for me, and I think for others as well. But it's not because of a lack of desire on the buyer side. I think there's still a number of buyers out there looking to get in the business on the premise that we've probably gone through the worst of it, and the next cycle will likely be an upcycle over the next, 3 to 5 years. And timing would be good if you were a buyer, right, in that process. The sellers, on the other hand, are thinking, hey, wait a minute, I survived. Why get out now, right? I've already got through the last 3 years. And so maybe I'll make it. The reality is, um, my takeaway out of not just the 26 meetings I had, but let's just call it the bar conversation, right? Working around that big central bar at the Fontainebleau.
By the
Um,
way, did you like the Fountain Blue? I
I
personally
did,
found
yeah, I
it
did.
convenient.
I didn't stay there. I stayed at Caesars where I had camped down for the NAMB conference.
Hmm.
That was a mistake. I should have moved to the
Well, by
Fontainebleau
the
to
way,
do
Fountain
that.
Blue, I stayed at it and I found it pretty convenient. Like I
Yeah,
just go like 5 minutes here,
yeah.
10 minutes there.
Except
Like,
except for the fact I thought the NBA had really spread themselves out too much, and maybe that didn't create a good sense of community. But neither here nor there. My point is, around the bar conversation was people still had concerns, but the biggest thing that I walked away with, and I've seen this now for the last 5 or 6 months, what I worry about, complacency. Not realizing, you mentioned AI when we were chatting just a little while ago, agentic AI. Have you wrung out the cost? Is your organization flat enough? Um, is your view of the world that, hey, man, I've been doing this for 25 years. I'm just going to keep doing it the same way I've been doing it for the last 25 years and it's all going to work out? I don't think that's true. I think first of all, I think the industry has changed in profound ways. I think it's about to change again in many profound ways. And if you just take the position of I'm just going to keep doing what I've always done and it's all going to work out, I think that's a mistake. I think complacency is a mistake. Doesn't mean you ought to be out trying to do 200 things at once. And I do think the industry is going to make some big mistakes on AI. There'll be a lot of capital wasted down some bad paths because people don't fully understand what it is and how it can operate. That said, some will get it right, and I think this takes a lot of thought in a sense of don't be complacent. Don't be, hey, we
so,
survived. Take a deep breath and we're good now, right? Now you have to think about how do we continue to optimize the organization? How do we help our salespeople make them better, make them more effective, efficient? Um, and look, you and I've talked about this and some of these others. One of the questions I always ask CEOs or production heads: do you know who your people are calling on? And as importantly, do you know why they're calling on those referral sources? Are they right? Are those referral sources actually productive referral sources? And maybe they're doing all the right things, except the referral source is wrong and they have zero volume.
well, I'm going to
Data,
take a little different approach to that
feel free.
piece than I have in previous conversations with you. I was at the sales mastery the week before,
Yeah, I
so
wish I could have been there.
I got my fair dose of not everyone was a top producer, but there was a lot of top producers. But what they did all have in common was very growth minded
Yep,
mortgage professionals. I mean,
yep,
everybody there was like in it to win it. So it
yep.
was a pretty cool culture. Shout out to Don and Gino. You guys did a great job. I did a LinkedIn post a couple days ago where I was like, sales mastery is really important. You know, like Brian and I are doing our best to create a lot of virtual value. You know, I've got the YouTube channel. Brian's got his weekly roadmap. And by the way, I think what we are doing in terms of creating virtual value is awesome. But I do think live events like a
Oh yeah,
sales
yeah,
mastery,
yeah.
it's important.
Look, I did an hour on lead conversion in front of 1,000 broker reps. First of all, I get a lot of psychic reward out of doing it from the audience participation and engagement, right? But I had, 500 of them came up to my booth after and thanked me. And I don't think I was, giving them, I hadn't broken open the Turin scrolls, right? This is pretty fundamental, basic stuff, but it had impact. And that, I think there's nothing like a live event
No,
where you
there's
can,
nothing like a live event, and
yeah,
we need to continue to pour in to live events. For those of the people that listen to this that do live events, like I do think next year will be a healthier year, and let's do live events, and then we need to deliver virtual value. I mean,
yeah,
one of the things that I've rolled out, and I don't think maybe you know about it, but I rolled out a new Instagram community called Uncommon LO.
I am aware.
So whether you go to Instagram or whether you go to TikTok, I've like 1 minute scripts and strategies to win in this market. So if you're not following it, guys, make sure you follow it. Part of the vision and why we did that is we're like, hey, our YouTube channel has got us to where we're at, but if we want to have 3 times more loan officers be mortgage coaches, we need micro content. We need one
Yep,
minute,
yep,
90-second content.
yep,
Um, so you already shared one big takeaway, like don't be complacent.
yep.
You already shared another one, which I'm going to put words in your mouth. Tell me if I got it right. The Brian Hale, like if you're local referral based lender, 50 basis points is very doable, and that should be your goal. Is that fair enough to say?
It is, and I would say it's a good interim goal. The one thing I think our industry is not great at is optimization, right? I think what I worry about, Dave, a little bit is if we do get a little bit of a rate run, and I do believe we're likely, I think we're biased for lower rates, although not materially lower rates. But as we can see, it's very sensitive to getting some refi volume, a 1/4%. Anything that has a five handle on the front, we're going to see a little pop here, right?
Oh, we're going to see.
What I worry about is that when that happens, people take their foot off the gas from doing the very things they've had to do for the last 3 years to optimize their organization, and we get a little bit lazy around that piece. And now any kind of refi boom we get is not going to be like 20 and 21. It'll feel like 20 and 21 because we've been so, difficult for the last 3 years.
But it
But
won't be from a unit
but it's
count.
not going to last as long, right?
Yeah.
So don't give up the disciplines that you've already created and continue to work on. You need to continue to work on those things and take advantage of that extra volume.
So another thing that I had really thought about, tell me if you think it's this simple, but I had breakfast with Jim Deitch and we were talking Moneyball mortgage and we were talking, let's just say it's 50 basis points. If you were a lender, would it be a good idea to scorecard all your loan officers around which of my loan officers are making us, they're making money in a sustainable way that's good for them and their family. And they're making the organization money in a way that's healthy for our business family. And their conversions are good, their concessions are good. What if we identified them, scorecarded them, and then we just did best practice sharing around
Yeah.
those people? And we actually had some transparency in the organization that, like, instead of just saying, hey, let's celebrate blah, blah, he's closing X number of loans, doing this kind of volume. We always do that. We actually started saying, and his concessions are X, His conversion is Y. He's among the top 20 conversion and profitable loan officers in the company. Let's talk. And we best practice shared around that. What are your thoughts?
I couldn't agree more. First of all, in past lives, I used to run a full-blown P&L on every originator, and
By the
then
way, why doesn't everybody do that?
lay it into a scorecard that takes into account these other KPIs that you just talked about, right? Conversion rates, those kinds of things. And then in addition to that, right, you kind of want to know, um, some what I call anomalous KPIs. What percentage of an originator's volume comes from loans that are funded 90 days and 6 months after they first meet the lead, which is a measurement of their follow up and follow through efficiency and effectiveness, right? And so if that number, by the way, is zero, what you know is they got to the lead, they didn't hit, boom, they move on and they never touch the lead again. They don't put them in the CRM, they don't put them in an active protocol process like a 4CA would do or others would do right in the process with a very defined follow-up methodology. And so I couldn't agree more. And I tell you why I think people don't do it. I'll answer your question because, and this is, you probably will disagree with me on this. I know others will, because I think many times management doesn't want to have to admit what they already believe. And when you do that kind of data and report, it forces you to realize that perhaps one of your most prolific volume originator is losing you 80 basis points on every loan that closes.
Yeah.
Now, what
By
do
the
you
way,
do?
I would love, I'm not expecting people to comment down below and say why. By the way, if anybody wants to, you're watching this on YouTube, we would love some feedback, but I would love to have some conversations with folks around that because I do think the future is transparency.
Right.
And that's a level of transparency for your loan officers that will make them better. And then with consumers, I just came off, I flew back this morning from Bethesda. I flew out of Reagan and, early in the morning, but I've spent 2 days with the Trust Engine team and literally like what you could do with AI, like we can take data, we can use AI and optimize for equity, optimize for financial freedom and net worth with real estate. And what we can do in terms of showing loan officers how to create demand, like literally look at a database and go, let's show these people the math. Like I really believe that for the lenders and loan officers that lean into AI, they lean into data, they lean into upgrading their presentations, like we can actually create the demand for loans in America. But but the way we've done it in the past, where we just wait for people to say, hey, I'm looking for a home. Hey, I'm thinking about refinancing. Like we need to go out and create the market, not wait for the market. Any
Yeah, I
thoughts on
agree.
that?
Yeah, I agree with you totally. You mentioned something a few minutes ago about, sharing best practices around those top performers. I have to admit that after 44 years in the business, I've become a little jaundiced, a little skeptical, a little bit cynical about originators who are not performing at that upper level, accepting, listening to a best practice, and then being motivated to actually execute on it, right? It's always been a frustration. I had Alan Pozeskian work for me at Countrywide. He's doing $1 billion a year, and $1 billion a year then, by the way, were loan averages at 275,000, right? So that was a lot of loans. Sitting in a branch when he was an originator with others who were doing 8 million a month, 8 million a year, and everybody wanted to be like Alan, right? So yeah, they want to make the money, they want to do all that. So just go do what Alan does, right? I mean, get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, be in the gym, have breakfast with your kids, take them to school, come in, work your butt off, do it all till 7 o'clock at night, and wash, rinse, and repeat. And people would be like, "Wow, that's really hard." Yes, yes, it is, because it takes discipline and it takes motivation. And the one thing I know that I have never been able to coach, and you've been a coach your entire career, a great one, is coaching people to want to be successful. If they want to be successful, I can coach them on the tools, the tactics, the strategies, and other pieces. But that piece that's right here in your heart, where you just have, I don't know if you ever read the book Notes from the Chairman, right? And
I have.
he talked about hiring, um, instead of hiring MBAs when he was running his firm, hiring PSDs, poor, smart, and a deep desire to be rich, right? Because they were so highly motivated. And he had a real profile. He wanted kids from blue collar homes, sons and daughters of firemen and police because they grew up in a disciplined house. All right, whether or not that's all politically correct or not, the reality is it worked. And so that deep desire to be successful, to pay the price. You know, my favorite saying on the plaque in my office is everybody wants to go to heaven, nobody wants to die. Meaning everybody wants stuff in life, but the price you have to pay can be steep. And you have to decide you're willing to pay that price. And if you're not,
Yeah.
it's okay. Success for you might be get up at 8 and having breakfast with your kids and come into the office at 11. Maybe that's success to you. But what you then can't do is be frustrated that you're not as optimized as somebody else who's really burning it and is organized and has a process and has practiced it over and over again. And so I'm a believer in best practice sharing, and I think some people will embrace it. And I also think you can't you can't drag a horse to water if it doesn't want to drink.
No, there's no debate about any of that. I don't know that I have a solution, but I
I
do
don't
am
either.
taking a different approach. I don't want to spend a bunch of time on this because I want to kind of net out a few more signals before we wrap it up. But I'm writing a book. I don't know what the title is going to be. I think I've talked to you a little bit about it. The Savage Code, Know Your Code. But I'm over 60. You're over 60.
I just turned
And
70, my friend. So
I'm aware of your age. I wasn't going to put you on the spot,
all
over
right.
70.
I don't mind it.
And I think we're both, one thing that's super clear is that the people that win, they have, and by the way, the code is your values, your philosophies, your beliefs,
Their
your
motor,
little mantras,
that piece inside that drives them.
like no one's gonna outwork me. Like that is part of my code. Now, by the way, Brian Hale might outwork me. I mean, there are people that outwork me, but very few people are going to outwork me, and that and I would push anyone to listen to this, whether you're a manager or whether you're a loan officer, like if you're successful personally, if you're successful financially, you have a really good code and you're living that code. And if you're not, you either aren't living your code or you've got a break. You've got something that you believe in, but you're just not living the code.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting to like really from a coaching perspective and from a content perspective, like really get into like what are your philosophies, beliefs, and is it that you just have a broken code, or is it that you're just not living it?
Look, I think part of that is you have to decide what you want in life. And then the second thing, you have to decide what you're willing to pay for it. And those
Yeah.
two things cannot be disconnected. Some people are lucky they hit the lotto. God bless them all. That's just not that's not going to be the path for most of us.
No, no. So okay, so let's wrap on this, and maybe on our next meeting, it'll be November. So like literally, this will probably get posted in November, but let's get
Let's
another
do
call in
another one
November.
sooner. Yeah.
Yeah, let's do a call in November, and let's come into it with just Brian Hale. How do we close the year strong? How do we plan for next year? Like that's all we're going to talk about is just
All right. Good. I
strategic
look forward to it.
planning and closing the year strong. But let's just give us a little Brian Hale, prequel to that, and then we'll dedicate the entire next call to strategic planning.
Yeah. So look, here's my view. We're sitting here 10/31 tomorrow. By the time you post this, it'll be early November. Almost every loan that's going to close in 2025 is likely in your drawer, right?
Good thought.
Right. So let's start there. So almost everything else you do for the next 60 days is about 2026. First of all, there's a piece of me that says you have to recognize that fact, right? Just admit that to yourself. Don't get, I think the greatest lie in life are the lies you tell yourself, right? That's right about what price you're willing to pay, what's really important to you, those kinds of things. It's a critical aspect. And so I think between now and the end of the year has to be about strategic planning and tactical organization to be wildly more successful in 2026, or maybe just 10% more successful or 20% more successful in 2026, kind of on a Kaizen model, right? Of continuous improvement on an ongoing basis. Whatever you think success is to you, you have to work backwards from the math. What do you want to make next year? How many loans would that take to close on your average commission? How many referral sources do you think you need? How many leads a month, a day, a week do you think you need to get to that level? And then compare it to where you are and ask yourself an inventory, what are the changes that I need to make? What are the tactics that I need to embrace? Do I have to go learn my CRM better so I have a better follow-up mechanism for the leads that I do get? The title to my talk in Vegas, you want to make more money in the mortgage business? Close more of the leads you already have.
Conversion.
Pretty simple. Conversion, baby. Conversion, right?
So by the way, time out. I want anyone listening to this, what is your conversion? And if you don't, and by the way,
don't know.
it may be hard to know leads to close loans if you're not obsessed with it, you're not tracking it. By the way, the best do track that.
Are obsessed.
But you can track credit reports to close loan. And I didn't mean like full on apps. I'm talking, how many credit reports did you run? Close loans. Every manager, like, let's just start with that. You can measure that. And if you haven't done
what's your cost of credit report per closed loan?
Boom. Yes, I like.
And
so by the way,
what's the trend of that data?
So as we wrap this up, I want when we come back, because I'm going to have Jeremy, I'm going to have top producers talk about loan officers, how to plan for next year. Let's with you give some, Brian Hale advice to executives and managers, so that like when you come to this next one, this is like, hey, you're an executive, you're a manager. Have you checked these boxes?
Yes.
Are you cool with that?
Yeah, it's a self-inventory, right, in the process. And by the way, you asked, why don't people run a P&L on every originator? Just so you know, here at Mortgage Advisory Partners, we do that kind of report creation and implementation for companies all the time. We have somebody that is, world-class savant at report generation and data management, and we can help companies build out those kinds of reportings, scorecards, so that they can then get a much better handle on their sales force. So that's a shameless self-plug, but it can be helpful to an awful lot of companies.
Well, let's make sure and remind people like how, if they wanted to talk to you about that or become part of, the weekly roadmap, like where would they go? What would they do?
Well, so first of all, they can just go to my website, mortgageap.com, mortgage, A as in Apple, P as in Peter.com, or on this kind of stuff, call me. You can get my cell phone number in LinkedIn. I'm in LinkedIn all the time, but the other side of it is it's 714-788-8661. Just call me direct. I pick up my phone.
Will we make sure Brian's email is below?
Yes, thank you.
His call is below.
Right.
And a link to his website's below, and call him.
Dave, when I was talking about your MortgageCoach tools, one of the very first tool that I talked to the audience about in Vegas, you want to convert more leads? Answer your damn phone. Pick up the phone, right?
I love that.
Let it go to voicemail. Pick up the phone.
And by the way, if you're a loan officer right now, I want you to when you get done with this, I want you to go through, you can go through and see how many people did I talk to today? Like how many conversations are you having? How many people did I text? And by the way, don't just say did I text it? Was that a money-making text? Was that a realtor that actually closes loans? Was that someone, or were these like high school friends? Because it's never been easier to manage this. I am experimenting with AI. Well, I'm kind of past experimenting. I mean, I'm optimizing, but I have recently connected my inbox with Perplexity. I've connected Slack, because that's what we use for internal communication with Perplexity. I'm using the Comet browser. It is insane, how efficient and effective. And if I want to know, hey, how many calls did I have today? And I can even categorize them. So I know how much of my time is money making, where I'm talking to a customer, talking to a prospect, versus
Other stuff.
FYI stuff.
Right.
And by the way, I do too much FYI stuff. Like
So do I.
yeah, when I audit, I'm always just like, shit. Okay, I'm not
Well,
as good
not
as I
only
thought
that,
I
look, how
was.
many people call you for advice from time to time? It may or may not be a money-making phone call for you, but you value relationship build and depth of relationships.
Totally. Oh,
So
well,
you
and
take
I
the time,
set
right?
aside time for that. Like
Right.
that, I mean, I'm not gonna not help mentor people and not help maintain friendships. Like that's part of life. But you want to measure that shit.
Right.
All
Exactly.
right. Any closing thoughts, bro? Anything that we want to say before we
Yeah,
wrap?
look, I come back to the complacency thing. I come back to, look, we've talked about data in the past. These little things like you use the term scorecarding, I use the term P&Ls on every originator. Do you know if you're an originator yourself, do you know, have you done an assessment between now and the end of this year of every referral source you have and the kind of money you have made from them this year, and whether or not you should look to upgrade, top grade some of those referral sources as part of your strategic plan moving into 26? And what's it going to take you to accomplish that on a go forward basis? Probably means you got to go get some new referral sources. So you then have the capability to sort some of your existing referral sources that may be huge time drags on you, but make you zero money. And
Let's
people
go.
sometimes have a hard time differentiating that and just saying, look, I'm just not going to market to this person anymore because they just are not a winner for me.
So, closing question and thought. I was just thinking in my head, usually you and I we schedule these, we record it, we push it onto YouTube, and, you know, we get a lot of compliments and value from it. What do you say this next one? We actually pick a date and time, we
And publish
promote
it.
it
Yep.
to a live audience,
Yep.
and,
I was gonna suggest that to you when we got off this call.
okay.
We ought
And
to
we
do
and we promote it like and we
yes,
make it like strategic planning for executives and managers
yes,
because no one's doing that.
agreed.
And we promote it. We'll have a Zoom audience. We'll
Yes.
push it live in Facebook.
I'll be glad to offer my system as well or yours. Either one doesn't matter to me. But absolutely be glad
Okay,
to.
so guys, Brian and
Let's
I
get that done.
we'll calendar this out. But if you have questions that you want answered ahead of time,
Send them in.
email, text, interwebs, you guys, we're not hard to find, guys. So let us know if you have questions, and then we'll promote that for a week or two. We're not going to get crazy, but we will make sure that folks know about that. And Brian, thank you, brother. I had a great conversation with you.
Thanks, Dave. As always, I appreciate it. For those of you who don't know this, we're doing this on a Friday afternoon late when both of us maybe could be having a glass of wine. But this is about the industry, man. This is about giving back. So,
Yeah, no, we're pretty passionate about the industry and giving back. So take care, everybody. I
all
hope you
right.
got value. If you're not following Mortgage Coach YouTube channel, follow it. Also start following Uncommon LO on Instagram and TikTok. And if you are not following Brian Hale on Instagram, pure value. And if you don't know about the weekly roadmap, guys, go to his
Check
website,
it out.
link down
Thank you.
below, find out about it. All
Thank
right,
you.
take care, everybody. This is a wrap.